Let's talk about thallium. On the periodic table, it's just a soft, kind of unassuming metal. But wow, does it hold one of the darkest reputations in all of chemistry? They call it the poisoner's poison and inheritance powder. Its history is just filled with mystery and murder. So let's dive into the sinister science behind this notorious element. So, what is it about thallium that makes it so uniquely sinister? I mean, it's not just that it's toxic, lots of things are toxic. It's that it's a master of disguise, and it uses our body's own most basic machinery against us. In this explainer, we are going to break down the elegant and frankly terrifying biochemistry that answers the question, how can just one metal be the perfect poison? The truly horrifying thing about thallium poisoning is just how sneaky it is. Unlike poisons that hit you like a ton of bricks, thallium is a slow burn. It's this creeping disaster that plays out over days, even weeks, and it often leads doctors down the completely wrong path. So at first, the signs might just feel like a bad flu, stomach pain, nausea, but then things get weird. A really excruciating, burning pain starts in the hands and feet. A strange dark line shows up at the roots of the hair. And then, about 2 weeks in, the most infamous sign of all, your hair just starts falling out in clumps. Add to that these weird white horizontal lines on the fingernails, they're called Mies lines, and what you've got is the classic, terrifying signature of thallium. And as this shows how much you get really matters. A big, acute dose can be fatal, for sure. But even smaller amounts cause this devastating and long-lasting nerve damage and, of course, that telltale hair loss. The poison doesn't have to kill you to completely ruin your life. But how does it actually do all this on a molecular level? Well, the secret to why thallium is so deadly lies in this brilliant act of biological deception. It doesn't force its way into our cells. No, it gets invited right in. And to understand how it pulls us off, we first need to meet the element it's impersonating. Meet potassium. This little ion is absolutely 100% essential for life. Our cells need it for pretty much everything, from firing off nerve impulses to keeping our hearts beating. And because it's so critical, our bodies have these incredibly smart systems for grabbing potassium and pulling it into our cells. And right here is where you see the deception. On the left, we have the thallium ion Tl+. And on the right, the potassium ion, K+. Look at them. They have the exact same +1 charge. And their size, their ionic radius, is almost identical. To our cells, thallium looks, feels, and acts just like the vital potassium they're desperate for. It's a near-perfect disguise. But here's where it gets even more insidious. Thallium isn't just a passive copycat. It's an aggressive imposter that actively hijacks the very machinery our cells built to keep us alive. Okay, so every single one of our cells has these amazing little molecular machines stuck in their outer membranes. They're called the sodium-potassium pump. Just think of it like a cellular bouncer or gatekeeper whose main job is to actively grab potassium from the outside and pull it into the cell. Now, you would think the cell would have some preference for the real thing, right? For potassium. But incredibly, the opposite is true. Research shows this pump doesn't just accept thallium, it prefers it. Its attraction to thallium is about 10 times stronger than its attraction to potassium, the nutrient it actually needs. It's crazy. So this preference leads to a complete hostile takeover at the cellular level. The cell's pump is out there looking for potassium. Thallium floats by, looking identical, and the pump doesn't just grab it by mistake. It preferentially latches onto the thallium with 10 times the force. It actively and efficiently floods the cell with poison, completely bypassing all of the body's defenses. So once it's inside, thallium doesn't just hang out. Oh no, it unleashes this multi-pronged attack, and it systematically tears apart the cell's most critical functions from the inside out. The damage is just catastrophic, and it's happening everywhere. It creates massive oxidative stress, which is kind of like causing the cell to rust from the inside. It latches onto important proteins and enzymes, completely disabling them. It attacks the mitochondria, the cell's power plants, and shuts down energy production. It messes with the ribosomes, the cell's protein factories, stopping them from building essential parts. It even damages DNA directly, and in the end, triggers the cell's own self-destruct sequence. Okay, so we've seen the absolute chaos at the microscopic level. Now, let's connect all that cellular sabotage directly back to those strange, debilitating symptoms we talked about at the beginning. And it all lines up perfectly. When thallium messes with those sodium-potassium pumps in your nerve cells, the result is that agonizing pain. When it binds to sulfur, it stops the creation of keratin, the very protein that makes up our hair and nails. And that's what causes the signature hair loss and those Mies lines. And when it shuts down energy production all over the body, well, that's where you get the muscle weakness, the fatigue, and ultimately multi-organ failure. And because it's so brutally efficient at this sabotage, the amount of thallium needed to kill is just shockingly small. We're talking less than a single gram for an average adult. That's an amount you could easily hide under a fingernail. And yet, even after everything we've learned, a central mystery is still there. As these scientists pointed out way back in 1968, while we understand how thallium mimics potassium, the fundamental reason why it's so uniquely good at it, why our own cells actually prefer the poison to the nutrient, well, that's still not fully understood. So in the end, thallium isn't just a poison. It's like a key that unlocks a fatal flaw in our own biology. It turns our life-sustaining machinery into a delivery system for death. And it leaves us with a really provocative question. If a simple metal ion can so perfectly exploit one of our most essential functions, what other hidden vulnerabilities are just lying in wait in our own biological code?